Good afternoon, Gossip Talk Shows family. It's Nomsa here at Gossip Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today, I am with Dr. Biggett Tan. How are you, Dr. Biggett?
Hi, Numsa, and hello, everyone. It's a delight and an honor to be here. I am doing very, very well. Thank you. And how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much. So our topic today is how our voices from the past can destroy our current relationship. So this is part two of the topic. Yesterday I did part one, and I just thought Dr. Biggett, she's a grieving coach, so she might like to get involved into this topic through this topic as well. So I just thought, let me just keep the topic. And yesterday, I just told like my own story, my journey, how my journey began, connecting with my inner voice and acknowledging the voices from my past and how they were affecting me. So if anyone is watching, you can go back to part one and watch part one before you watch this one, or you can just go ahead and watch it. So, Dr. Biggett, so what do you think about the concept of how our voices from the past have the power to disrupt and break apart our present relationship?
Very interesting that you say you choose this topic, Numsa, because the Grief Recovery Institute, which is the only evidence-based grief recovery system, and one of the institute that certified me to do my grief coaching, grief transformation coaching. The Grief Recovery Institute says that practically every relationship that is not going well now, in other words, if you find yourself in one after another relationship that's not working out, their study shows, the grief recovery is evidence-based, their study shows that it is always has something to do of unresolved past grief. A lot of times it's childhood grief. And so it is what I thought, and that's my experience is very similar. I have a recent client where he was in the middle of a grief coaching for something completely different, actually. But he, for passing of his parents, they suddenly passed. It's impacted him quite a bit, and he allows support. But he's in the middle of a grief coaching, and his new girlfriend did something as a gesture of kindness. But he saw an insecurity that stemmed to his previous girlfriend, actually his first girlfriend, when he was like a freshman in college, left him and broke his heart and so forth, and he didn't receive help at the time. It was like, he did everything that everybody did at the age, which is there is nothing right or wrong. And he said, "Oh, the girl dumped me." Fine. And he cried in secret. But hey, if you're a freshman in college, what do all the other freshmen guys says? "Oh my God, who's that girl? Let's go party. Let's date this guy. Let's that girl and show her who's the winner and all this good thing." And so he goes, "Yeah," and he's a good-looking gentleman. He was a good-looking kid back then. He's a good-looking gentleman. So it's like, "Oh yeah, you know what? You can tell me. Let me show you who's the next girl and the next weekend. This prom princess and all this thing." Well, deep inside, he was crying. And that trauma continue on. In his word, his relationship never lasts more than a year. that was record for him. Since then, that first relationship that he thought he was going to marry the girl and all these things, but since then the relationships didn't never last more than a year. Anyhow, so I pointed him out that what if the girl actually is doing ABC because it's actually a gesture of compassion and kindness instead of what have you that he was thinking of. He was willing to consider that, thankfully, and discover very soon that she's actually really is a really sweet girl and a sweet lady, not a girl really. And and thankfully, he's willing to, after he worked through his parents' grief, using the same tools and skills that he gained from that through working with me. He worked on mostly on his own with a little minimal help on the past trauma of the relationship. And so they continue to be doing well now. But your past voice, as the Grief Recovery Institute says, the things that you experience in the past, it might be not seems nothing at the time. You might have successfully powered through from it, but the heart is like a 6 years old, and if the heart's still wounded, we know that our heart will interfere with our actions in an attempt to protect you. It's not a bad thing, but it might be a protecting out of fear and out of pain instead of out of love and out of kindness.
Dr. Pickett, when you put the example and the example of this person that split up with their girlfriend, and his only way of healing was to show his girlfriend that I'm gonna just get out there and get into another relationship and show you who is the big man. But deep down inside, he's still crying, he's still grieving. It doesn't work. And also, you mentioned the heart. Heart is wounded, it needs to be mended. That's why we have to mend our broken heart. It's very, very, very important. And when the relationship ends, it means that we have to find healing. We have to go through the process of healing step by step so that we don't take our wounded heart to somebody else. Because like what you're saying is this person relationship was ending in the same cycle because inside they're not really healed. They're still crying. So you need to wipe those tears away. You need to, when you wipe those tears away, when the heart is broken, your heart needs to know that it is okay. You need to go through forgiveness as well. But if you say, okay, and maybe the relationship ends like what Dr. Bigot saying, you're like, okay, I'm going to show my ex that I am better than him. That's not the way to actually, because that moment, the moment the relationship ends, it's not about your ex anymore. It's every man for himself. That's why it's very, very important to actually seek help in a proper way and just go through healing so you can connect those voices, so you can actually cut those voices of pain, the voices of sorrow. It doesn't matter how long a relationship has been. So the voices of your past will always going to be there if you don't cut them off, if you don't break them away and cut the ties between you and your ex. So it has to end. And also, if you have some childhood attachment, I'm sure Dr. Bickett, as a grieving coach, you do meet the clients that still have childhood attachment. Yesterday, I shared my story. If anyone go back and watch that the childhood attachment that I had myself, and that affected my relationships, which I didn't know that in my subconscious carries the truth. No matter how much we try to actually ignore the truth, and our subconscious mind always there's a disk there that carries information about who we are, where we come from. And if we ignore those voices that are telling us that we need to deal with this, that means that we're not going to have a fulfilling relationship. I 100% agree with you, Dr. Bigot. And if someone right now, Dr. Bigot, and they're like, you don't understand what I am going through, because sometimes pain, sorrow can drive somebody to insanity. Those voices, if somebody is gone into the past and they've had parents that did not love them, or they have had to go on dates and experience a rejection and experience somebody cheats on them, and you're telling them to get rid of the voices, they'll be like, you don't understand what this person has put me through. So what advice can you give that person that is grieving in order for them to find that joy, that freedom, and by just cutting off those voices from their past?
Definitely, there are a couple of recommendations, but I also, to start with, I want to clarify two things. The first being, somebody listening, a lot of people don't realize this. A lot of people say, oh, okay, we're talking about grief, but it was more trauma that I has. And many people, firstly, do not realize that trauma causes grief. So if you're listening to this and you start thinking, yeah, well, I have all this thing happen, but it was, childhood trauma. It's not grief. I'm not grieving. I even have counselor, therapists come to me and say, well, I'm not grieving. That was then. I'm grieving. I'm not grieving. And the true definition of grief is the unsettling feelings caused by unmet hope, a change, or a loss. The unsettling feelings caused by unmet hope, a change, or a loss. So anything that doesn't meet your hope, whether it is a childhood trauma, any child that I know, hope that whether they consciously hope or unconsciously, or subconsciously, they hope that they have a good relationship with their, and not being abused and not being traumatized. And trauma causes change. Trauma causes hope unmet. And trauma also causes loss. We call it intangible loss, which is a loss of trust and a loss of safety. And so just know that trauma is grief, and trauma causes grief. And that's the first thing. The second thing I would like to clarify really quick, actually, is we're talking about relationship, and it's a lot of time when we say the word relationship, we think about romantic relationship, which is very true that voices from the past, as we Numsa shared sounds yesterday as well as just now I shared, it can influence your romantic relationship, but it could also influence your work relationship. It's not just relationship. The way we relate with anybody is the way we relate with anybody. If you are, for instance, highly defensive, or you are uncomfortable being very close to people. A client of mine was traumatized as a child. If you ever been to one of my public workshop, you might have heard me tell this story. She was traumatized as a child when she was about 10 to 11 years old, something like that. And it's seemingly completely unrelated to anything else is going on in her life. But she was walking down the street. This is in a different country. She was alone, and she saw this beautiful woman walking in front of her. And there were people on the side of the street, gentlemen who behaved not so gentlemanly, and started whistling and calling out to this lady in front of her, beautiful young lady. And the lady was scared, and she started running. And that my client, who was at the time a girl, And the gentleman saw the lady running, and they stand up and they holler and what have you at her even more. So this lady ran and cried, and this whole scenario traumatized my client, who was a child at the time. And she came home. She told mom, but mom's not a grief specialist, so mom do what every good mom did, and say, "Oh, don't worry, honey. Here's some cookies and milk." Or sweet tea in her culture, it was sweet tea. Here's some cookie and sweet tea. So you feel better. Do you ever wonder why, if you stress, you might go to food or certain food? Look back what you were doing in your childhood. But anyhow, so mom just basically, now mom intent was to help her feel better, but it dismissed her fear. It just said, "Don't worry," while she actually was worried. And she actually was still worried. It's keeping her all scared and so forth. And then a couple weeks later, she told mom again, and that she's still worried. And by then, mom said, "Oh, don't be silly. You'll be fine. That will never happen to you. You know, whatever." And that was dismissive to her little heart. And she said, "Oh, so it's silly to be scared." But the heart scared anyway. The heart was wounded anyway, was traumatized. And so her heart, the heart is not logical. Your mind's logical, your heart's not logical. Your heart's equal to like a 6 years old. And the heart says, "Okay, so apparently it's silly to talk about my fear, but I am worried." In the most illogical way, the heart say, "If I do not look like that lady, and if I don't come close to people, I will not get hurt like that." She started gaining weight magnanimously, to the point that she consistently, it doesn't matter what diet, what surgery she did, she stayed severely overweight, like category of obese by any medical definitions. Not only that, she also become uncomfortable being close to people, and therefore she's alone in her life, even though she always wished to be married. But even further, in her relationship at work, people are just very much not able to get close to her. She's able to do her work well and this and that, but she said she's lonely even at work because she has no close friend. And people, she knows, people say, "Oh, you know, they want to be her friend and this and that," but she's uncomfortable. And furthermore, as she goes up in her career ladder, she will go up, and then once she is put in the spotlight, like a leadership position, she'll self-sabotage. So it's a relationship with herself and her self-confidence too, because she'll self-sabotage. She doesn't want to be in the spotlight because of this trauma. And then she start back, and then she start doing better again, self-sabotage, and she start feeling like a loser. So that is how a trauma can influence the relationship. Yes, with in a romantic way, but also at work and even with yourself. And what can you do about that? A few things. The first is to really look, to be willing to be honest with yourself on where you are. There is a saying, you can't get somewhere if you don't know where you are coming from. And it's kind of like, even if anybody use a GPS, whether it's Google Map or somebody, you put in destinations, they put start location. And now, if you don't know, just like a good Google, a good Google has this detection system nowadays. An advanced GPS has a detection system. You might not know the street name. You just know, dang, I got lost. And you don't know where you are, and you just know, okay, I want to be in a different place. Now, in there, you ask for help. You ask for help is the second thing, where you ask the GPS. Even if you have a GPS, you allow the GPS to use location locator. in the GPS, so they can hone down where you are and take you out of there. And so if you are lost and you don't know exactly where you are and where you need to start and what exactly going on with you and all these things, you just say, I do not like the result that I have, whether it's in a romantic or in work or your relationship with yourself. Then you say, okay, I don't want to be here. I don't even exactly know where to start. Allow help. A good coach, a very good coach, will be able to work like a location locator, just like the first client I shared about. Neither of them actually come to me for relationship. The gentleman came to me for passing off his parents. The lady came to me for work-related grief, job loss, and health-related things. But we discovered those because if you did the second part is allow some support, and also in terms of relationship, we don't want to be listening to people and naysayers, but sometimes there is a scant truth in what people are saying to you and about you. And so in terms of relationship, because you relate with other people, then if your 20th girlfriend, so your 20th boyfriend said, you're just this way. A very well-known relationship coach. He shared this story a million times. So he's fine being told. His name is Matt Box. He's a very well-known on YouTube, very well-known high-level relationship coach. Matt Box says that he was once in this kind of like a boot camp or something of relationship. And every woman in there are some 20-something women. Every woman in there said, you know what the thing is? You're so cool, so handsome, and all these things, but you make us feel unaccepted. By saying that, you might just kind of want to say, and of course he admitted, he said the first defense mechanism that he says was, he's like, well, look at me. Yeah, good looking. Matt is good looking. Matt good looking back then, still good looking now. I am good looking. I'm very courteous. I'm very well mannered. All this beautiful gentleman's quality. If you put it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25, it fits them all. But it's like all these women make all these women, some 20-something, feel unaccepted. And Matt says at night after he initial defense thing, he knows well enough to say, yeah, they are right. I got to do something. His mother happened to be the one of the greatest coach of all time. He turned to his mother, but otherwise. In relationship, they just were very uncommon advice from me. But in relationship, do notice, not take it personally, but do notice what other people say. If there are one after another saying the same thing about you, you might want to give it a consideration. Again, not always take it to heart, but just say, is there a scant truth in it?
Who is the relationship coach? Who is Matthew? What's Matthew's second name?
Box, Boggs.
Matthew Box.
He's from the US.
Okay, I've never heard of him. I've worked with Matthew Hansi. I've never worked with Box.
Bog, as in George, G as in George, S.
Okay. I've never heard of him. I'm gonna look him up when I finish here. I'll look him up. I like that when every woman says to make us feel Men do that and women sometimes because we do things without realizing because of our past.
Yeah.
And is so amazing. My one of my coaches at Ngosi talk shows, she does that with men. I'm like, I need to coach you. When you have time, you need to come. I need to coach you. She works within the company, but she's like, she's so good looking girl. But when a man approaches her, she comes, she'll be so annoyed. And she's like, Nomsa, I am so annoyed with this guy. Don't they know how to approach girls? So I'm like, what is going on? And she's like, this man is like approaching me saying, you look so cool, girl. And like, am I a girl? Who does he think he is calling me a girl? It's just the language goes on and on and on. I'm listening. I'm like, I'm like, this is so amazing. I'm like, you need coaching because some people they've already have these voices that are speaking to them, and if the our past voices they have not dealt with, then every relationship we enter is not going to work. I like Dr. Bigot when you actually mentioned that the feelings like um when the feelings like you mentioned that grief is an unsettling feeling of hope that feels that is not met. And I've never noticed about grief like that myself. When I started working with you, that's when I started realizing actually grief is not just for death. It's like if the disappointment is grief, you feel the grief, but if you don't work um, through that, then that goes to your subconscious mind. The rejection as well is the feelings. They go and go to your subconscious mind. So every time, like now, if I go through anything, disappointment or any rejection, rejection in businesses, it's just sometimes it's not rejection, it's just that person they don't really want to work with you, or the clients they don't want to work that moment. They are unsure of whether to go ahead or not to go ahead. Sometimes if you still have those voices from the past, you will feel like why this person don't want to work with me, why this. But if you have dealt with them, like myself now, if a client comes in and they're not sure, I always say to them, I don't think you should go ahead with dating if you're 100% not sure whether you should actually join the agency, because it's a big commitment. So I don't take them if they're not sure. I only take some. I don't even try to convince them, because I believe that dating is a big responsibility and it's a decision that it has to be met within. I only offer coaching if somebody is not sure. So I'm like, do you want to do the coaching so that you can 100% sure whether are you happy being on your own or are you happy with somebody else? Because there are some people nowadays, they don't want to date. They just happy staying single, and that's absolutely fine because they've dealt with their past traumas and they're like, I'm actually enjoying my singleness. I don't want to be somebody else. And there are some people that are not sure and they want to stay single, but they think they want to be in a relationship. So it's all mixed. So it's very, very important when your heart is broken, to actually have self-compassion and self-care and seek professional help as well. And self-compassion is the critical component of healing a wounded child, because it's very, very important for us to prioritize the self-care. And also we have to practice self-forgiveness and self-acceptance and self-love. If we don't practice those things, we wouldn't be able to be in a fulfilling relationship. It's like when you relationship with families, like I just get along with all my family members. Sometimes the people don't understand why I find it easy, because before I realize that actually sometimes, we have these expectations about people, that this is what we expect people to be like, because our voices from our past, they are telling us this. But after I dealt with my own issues, that's when I realized actually I need to accept people for who they are, as long as they are not harming me, and that just accept them and just love, come in a place of love and accept somebody as I will accept myself. But then I also have boundaries and my principles in place as a human being, that if you want to enter NOMSA's environment, my environment, the foundation of my environment, it has to be like this. Because in order for me to actually go through my childhood healing, getting rid of these voices that were affecting my relationship with my intimacy, with my friends and my family, I had to work, I do some work. I had to go through my foundation and break every pain, forgiveness. There's so many things that I had to go through in order to find that forgiveness and actually find healing. And since that time, I made a choice that I'm not going to judge anybody, but I'm not going to let anybody enter my life and take advantage of me, send me back to the voices of my past. I'm not going to do that. So I have these principles in place that I have put, that if you want to enter my life, this is these are my values that I live by. And but if you have your beliefs, my beliefs are fine. But if you have your beliefs, you can enter my life. As long you accept my beliefs, I accept yours. I'm not going to try to change the person you are as a person. So all those things that they play into place when we are actually coping, when we are dealing with we are healing our past. We've got to change. We're rewriting our story. We're not just healing, we are rewriting our past, how we want our future to look like. So I always say, somebody, if you have gone through abuse in the past as a child, or you've gone through rejection, or you've gone through whatever challenges you go through, it does not define your future. You can rewrite it. And that's what the topic is about, where it's like Dr. Bigety was sharing the story about the guy that the relationship didn't work. He thought he was going to be a big man by not dealing with the pain, but in the end, he realized actually he needs to deal with the pain. That means he's rewriting his story past to the future. He's actually saying, I'm going to go through healing. And after going through healing, this is how my life, I'm designing my life this way. This is my foundation. In my foundation, these are kind of people that I need in my life. We're not actually judging people. We are not doing anything. For me, I always say, God, I don't want anybody that enters my life and they take advantage of me, they hurt me. And then if they hurt me, God, you wouldn't want me to cry. You wouldn't want me to bring shame to you. So I need to be a good example. Like when he says he has his 10 commandments. So he says, you want to enter my kingdom. These are my commandments and they are non-negotiable. So I always read back to him saying, your commandments are non-negotiable. So for me as a woman, this is how I want, like if I'm dating a guy, this is what the guy has to be like. But his character and values, they have to, I need to be able, like my family values and all these things, I put it out there. And the voices from my past, I have healed them. Do I really want to date somebody, or do I need to hang out with somebody that don't understand the power of forgiveness? I can teach somebody how to forgive, but what if that person, they're not ready to listen? So we have to understand that in order for us to move forward with every voice that is speaking into our head, it's a choice. It's a choice that as an individual, we have to make that choice. And when we make that choice, we have to decide how our life is going to look like tomorrow, in 5 years or 3 years. Even though the problems do appear in that moment, we can deal with them. That's fine. I don't know, Dr. Biget, if you have anything that you want to add for somebody that is actually grieving for the past. Is mostly there are some people that, like, sometimes they lose their parents, and when they lose their parents, they try, like myself, what I was trying to do, trying to find a man that actually resemble my father, that is actually similar, that would treat me like my dad. Like if a man argues with me, I'll be like, honestly, my parents, I've never witnessed my parents arguing. And they did argue though, but in private. And my dad never told me off, and my stepdad never told me off, and my mom. But when I started dating, it was really, really hard for me to actually, when somebody is fighting with me, I didn't know how to handle it, because I'm coming to a family where when you make a mistake, they don't let you get away with murder, but they will sit you down and explain the consequences of not listening to your parents. What is the price when you don't listen to your parents? And then they explain to you in the name of love and showing you that I love you, but you cannot cross the boundary. There are boundaries that cannot be crossed in this home. So, so now I'm with this man that does not communicate their want, that does not know how to communicate their desires. All they do is they like lash out. And I'm like, that's not how you treat a human being. I'm out. So what advice can you give, Dr. Biget, if somebody is in that moment where they just want to date their parents, or they want to date, some people actually want to date their exes, like how their exes look like, similarities.
Yeah, and in those scenario, the reason, ask yourself why, just like Numsa just said there, and as you said, Numsa, you didn't realize, but that's because your father and your stepfathers passed, and so and you love them, and so you are having this void, and you are missing them, and you're looking for them in the wrong places, basically, in an actually not even appropriate. They're not your father, and then you start wondering why they don't treat you like your father. And it is in that scenario, if they find themselves there, you find yourself you're looking for you the replacement of your parent, or a replacement of your ex or something. That is because there is something unresolved in you, that you were, and sometimes it worked the opposite as well. So in other words, somebody might not have the best relationship with her father or his father or mother, whichever way, doesn't always the father. But let's just give an example. Somebody might not has a person, a lady, a girl might not has the best relationship with her father. When she grow up, she has this void in her, which is hope unmet, or unmet hope, and the loss of being able to have a caring, loving father figure. And then when she grow up and she find gentlemen it's actually she's trying to fill that void in her. Could be the other way around, a gentleman with a mother, a gentleman, a lady with a mother, something like that. And so that is a lot of time back to the unresolved wound and unresolved trauma. And every experience changed somebody. Every experience you have changed you will cause a change in you. Now, it doesn't mean that you cannot resolve the pain from that. It doesn't mean that you cannot not have an understanding on that and allow your heart to heal. I'm not because some people say, well, it changed me forever, so I can't change back. It doesn't, you don't need to change back. Every change contribute to something in your life now and in the future, but you can also come from a place of having been healed, having you healed your heart, as well as to understand where it is. Because understanding alone, now this is the difference between grief coaching and therapy, or most therapy. Most therapy and mindset coaching help you understand. Oh, yep, I understand why I do ABC. I understand why I'm looking for my father in a man in my days. I understand why I am highly reactive when a woman says or do this, because the way my mother used to say or did this is something that happened with many people, including my former husband. Early in the relationship, I noticed that he will react in certain manner. And knowing what I know, I say, this is just something that I invite you, and I don't attack people, as even back in the day as a 24 years old, and I was only starting this work. I know enough to say, I just invite you to see if it is a possibility that you react this way and that way. Is a pattern that I noticed in the last, I think, 3 months we were together. I'm just curious if there is a reason beside me that you reacted this way and that way. Bless his heart, he actually is a very open-minded gentleman and also very smart guy. And he took it, and the way I approached it, it wasn't attacking him. He said, oh, let me take a look at this. He came back to me 3 days later and said, you were right. That is because my mother did this and that and this and that, and I didn't like it as a kid, but I can't say a thing to mama. So guess what? Now I'm taking it on every woman. And looking back, it's actually, you're not the first woman who noticed that. I have people say it, except they say it in a different way than you do. By then, I was already helping people. And so, but anyhow, so that is something that, it's to heal that. And with him, even when he realized that, so he knows that it's not appropriate for him to behave this way. And this has happened with the majority of clients come to me. I know I'm not supposed to do this. People with post-traumatic stress disorder, they know that they don't need to react this way. And all these things, they know up here. But then you still did it. That you still did it again and again and again. Why? Because the heart is not the mind. Your mind could register, I understand this, but if your heart's not healed, then it will continue to want to react or respond the way it feels that it needs to protect itself. And we know nowadays, many studies shows that the signal from your heart is 60 times stronger and faster than the one from your mind. So your heart will override your mind at critical moment. And therefore, we want to allow our heart to heal as well. in addition to understanding why we're doing things. And in that scenario, then yes, you will be able to, whether you notice you're looking for your father in a date or you're reacting to your date in a certain way. Excuse me. Allow yourself to be healed, your heart to be healed.
That's very, very important to actually mend that broken heart, because sometimes there's some things that we can look at them and we just overlook them and say, no, I'm okay. But if you're not okay, just deal with those little things and allow yourself to heal. Because for me, it was like I just looked at my life, the cycle, how my life was going. It was like I was happy, but I wasn't happy. Something was missing in my heart. And also, though I loved my parents, and my mom was still alive as well, and I was losing, it was those childhood attachment that I had that I couldn't understand. That, oh, let me open the door, somebody's. Did you wait for me, Dr. Biget, or you're just like Rachel? I said, wait, let me go open the door, and she didn't speak. Or, oh, sorry, you should have just taken over. Um, yeah, so if your childhood attachment is not dealt with, it causes unhappiness, because it feels that there's something. For me, it just felt that I think it was a broken heart that needed to be healed. Because I just felt that something was missing in my heart, and there was these needs of hope that were no longer fulfilled, and I was looking for somebody else to fulfill them. So it's very, very important to look at a relationship and the people that we want to date and know that they are individual. They will never be our fathers, and they will never. You wouldn't want to date your mom anyway, so they will never be. Yeah, and you will not want to date your dad. So for me, after I've gone through the healing, I just started loving my relationship with my dad. And I realized actually I did not want to replace my dad with anybody. I just wanted to love that relationship as an individual. I enjoyed it. And I just wanted to keep those memories. I did not want to date a man like my dad buried before. If somebody tells me off, I'll be like, you don't tell me off. My parents never told me off. But now I realize that, yeah, somebody can tell me off if they want to. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Or they're expressing their feelings, and they're allowed to express how they feel. But before, I would be like, that is just so wrong to actually. But there's one thing that I just took from my parents is I don't fight in front of my children. If you want to tell me off, do not tell me off in front of my children. That is, I believe that my parents did the right thing for me to grow up and find my own world. So I feel that children shouldn't be bruised as well. And that part is the value that I took with me, that I always tell my men that you wanna fight me, wrestling match, you can do it, but not in front of my children. So we have to respect our children. So we don't fight in front of our children. But we can have a disagreement where we talk and disagree. And he will say to the kids, what do you guys think? And they'll be like, wow, I think mom is just wrong. And I think we should do this. Or if we are going on a holiday, if there's a disagreement, we all allowed to have a chat and have a disagreement. But if it comes to wrestling match and telling him he is wrong, he telling me I'm wrong, it's got to be done private. So, any words of encouragement, Dr. Bigot? Is 2 o'clock now.
Yeah, I would say my words of encouragement is to allow if your result is not where not every firstly some people say, oh my god, I need to go back and heal every wound. No, only if your result is not where you want to be and it bothers you. If it doesn't bother you, who cares? Everybody else can say it's everything else. Only if your result is not where you want it to be and it bothers you, then allow yourself to heal your heart. So allow your heart to recover from the trauma. And saying what I said earlier, being able to understand, being able to know and say, yes, I understand this and that, does not equate your heart having healed. Understanding does not translate to heart being healed. So allow your heart to heal, to see if there is, as the Grief Recovery Institute say, if your relationship, there's a romantic work relationship, is not where you want to be, then allow yourself not just understanding, not just looking back, but actually take the actions to be able to heal the heart now, whether it is with a grief coach or the grief specialist or something that suits your heart, but allow your heart to heal.
Of that, Dr. Biget, that allow your heart to heal. You know, like sometimes when we don't allow ourselves to heal, we end up being disconnected from our original self to this self that sometimes people don't recognize. So it's very, very important. Like every now and then, there's times where I do deliverance. And when we go to church, we do deliverance. And my pastor says, no, so call yourself out. I'm like, call yourself out, to call your name and say, wake up. And I'm like, why do we do that? So he's like, in our subconscious mind, sometimes we can actually go to sleep because when you are disconnected from your a winning spirit is a spirit that brings a creativity, that brings the authentic you, where you show up like when you go to business meeting unapologetic, you show up, you make a business deal, and when you make a business deal, if you need to negotiate, you negotiate, and people believed in you when you actually speak to them. But when you don't have confidence, you are like a walking a dead zombie because of the disappointment, the rejection, and you are in this world, but you don't really want to be in this world. You are like, I don't know whether life has a meaning or it doesn't have a meaning. But the truth is, life has a meaning. So you can work on your deliverance or work on your healing, however you want to do it. Meditation, for me, I meditate in the Word of God. And I'm sure there's loads of meditation audios and everything that you can use to actually meditate so you can work that inner winning spirit. Man, I use fasting. I fast. I actually meditate in the Word of God. And when I meditate, the more I meditate, the more I connect to my inner being, and the more I get creativity, the more I believe in myself, and the more I don't worry about what people think. I love everywhere I go. I just love being there and being surrounded by people. And when I feel those that are don't they've been rejected, all I do is I can just pray for them. And it's very, very important to go through a self-healing. I met this woman, she's Turkish, she's a coach, she has a big following online, and she said before she was chasing, she said before I was chasing, and this is what I've recognized with me as well, that's what I've been doing, chasing when like designing everything, like you go to a coach and they'll tell you this is the right thing to do, and then you start following that system and that system doesn't work. And she was like, the minute she just dropped everything and started meditating, and then in meditating she found that connection within herself, and that helped her to actually design the life that she wants, so she can be successful and then actually help others how to do the same. And she said she find herself like doing her authentic self. And I have realized with me as well that the moment I'm just okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, the coach, but I'm going to connect with God and I just find out what my winning spirit says to me. And you find that you get creative, and you find that you get connected to your inner child, and your inner child is the authentic self. And you find that every creativity that comes out, like when I have a coach, when I do that, it means I go to coach and say, this is the idea that I have. What do you think? All the coach has to do is to tweak that idea and say, okay, that's brilliant, Nomsa, I like it. But if I just get up in the morning and just say, in a place where I'm fed up today, I am tired, I don't want to sleep, and I make a decision, everything does not go right. So it's just acknowledging where you need healing and just focus on that part, knowing that you are loved by Ghost Talk Shows, by God. I don't know whatever you believe in, knowing that you are loved. There are some people who don't believe in love. You know that you are loved. While you're on earth, your purpose. Somebody else wants to hear that story that you have, and your inner child wants to connect with you. So that's what I leave you guys with, that unapologetic, work on yourself and be the person that you were created to become on this earth, so that when you do die, you can tell the heaven the stories that happens on earth, and you can be, your angel can come back and guide somebody through to be better, to a better version of themselves. And we are here at Ngosi Talk Shows, guys. Please still pray for Carol Ann. She's still in hospital. She's recovering amazingly. And we're just praying for her to go home. We're not praying for her to come back at Ngosi Talk Shows, not yet. One step at a time. So my prayer to God is, God, let her go home for Christmas. And then once she's at home, I can say, God, bring her back. So I just need one step at a time, guys, just for her to be with her family. Hospital is not a nice place to be. So live with grace, everyone. If you want to connect with Dr. Bigot, please do get in touch with us. She's on every social media. If you go to the website, Hope Spring Eternal Introduction Agency, you can connect with her as well from there, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube as well. Or you can connect with us at our Ngosi Talk Shows page. And we have a group here as well, Ngosi Talk Show group on Facebook. And we have a Unique Billionaire Mindset on Facebook as well. So you can connect with us and be part of the family. Remember, if you want to find your own voice and lead from within, that's what we do at Ngosi Talk Shows. You can still inquire about the coaching. You are looking for love and you're fed up and say, you know what, I don't think there is a good woman out there. The fact that you are a good man and the fact that you are a good woman that is looking for a good man, it means that somebody is searching for somebody. So we just need to connect you with that person. Go to the website and register, and I'll connect with you and send you on a date. And at Hope Spring Eternal Introduction Agency, when you go on a date, you have we actually have a company that deals with health and safety. So you go on your own date and then you have this information in 24 hours. If anything, the date goes wrong, you can contact the health and safety company. Or if a woman, things go wrong, you can contact them. Before you contact us, you can contact them and tell them the story, what has happened. They will take all the information and then they will call us, and then you can call us after, and then we'll deal with it so that they have the information, and so that you are safe, or if you need help or anything. That's the process now for Hope Spring Eternal Introduction Agency, that you're no longer alone when you go on a date. You have somebody, whether you're a man, you have somebody that looks after you 24 hours, 24/7. So God bless everyone and live with grace.